I have no clue what she's going to talk about.
I actually tagged you because I knew that maybe I could get something for free.
I know that's what it was.
Not gonna lie, anytime you tag somebody, it's like, I would like this for free. And I didn't send him a PowerPoint all week. He's been like, hey, and I just, no, it's up here. And then I did actually write this down, which I'm a little bit proud of, I'm not gonna lie. So, no, but if I did send it to Corey, he would have stole a lot of what I'm gonna talk about. And I actually have refused to tell anybody what I was talking about except for Erica, but that's just because I pay her to be here, so it's okay. No, but most of you only know me. There's not a single person in here that's known me since my music career. And so I think that it's better for me to kind of go back and talk about how I got there and kind of break down a little bit about how the music field works and how that kind of ties into like everything that I've been working on. So it's going to sound kind of interesting, but I'm calling this the no AC mentality. AC stands for air conditioning, Corey, in case you needed to know. I'm following along. Hey, I'm just making sure. So first car I got, I was 16. My dad gave me a Jeep. All the way until I was 26, not a single car that I ever had air conditioning in it. The last car that I had before I actually bought my first car, my mom was getting rid of her minivan. And I was trying to book shows and play music, and I was like, hell, I could take the back seats out of this shit and throw guitars in there. So I was like, let me get that for $1,500. The lumbar support and those Honda Accords were amazing, I'm not gonna lie. It did have AC, until about 2 weeks after I got it, the AC went out. So I literally had never had a car with AC. To take you back, like right before that, I was like 21 when I got sober, almost 22, something like that. And I had just taken this new job doing tax reassessment. I went to college for 4 years. I have no idea where my diploma's at to this day. I didn't pick it up from the college until they were transitioning from a private school to a public sector. They actually called me and were like, you should come get your diploma. That's how much I really cared about it. I did have to pay the student debt though. But I was starting to work this job doing tax reassessment. If you don't know what that is, I worked for this company. They bid on different counties. They would go, I would get the sheets of paper, and I would go house to house. I had to take a picture of the front, the back. I had to knock on your door, ask you questions. Everyone hated me. No one wanted to talk to me because I was going to raise your taxes based on how your house looked. So real fun times for me. And I had throat tattoos at the time too, which is kind of interesting. But I also got asked multiple times to come into houses. I saw a lot of naked old men. It was interesting time. I was asked multiple times if I was selling Girl Scout cookies, which makes, I don't know. Anyways, no. But the week I started that was the week I got sober. And I remember I felt like shit. I was used to drinking every day. I'm detoxing. I'm starting this job. And it was 100 degrees outside. Everyone else, they were going, door to door, and they would come get in their car and they'd turn the AC on, and I would get in the car, and I was like, cool, this is worse than just fucking dying in the heat. And I remember just sitting there being like, shit. And so I would go back home to this shitty trailer that I lived in, and I did not have AC in there either. So I was like fucking dying. I didn't have internet, I didn't have TV, I had my guitar and I had my books. And so I would sit, and I had beer. But I would sit and I would write. And so all of that first record that you have listened to, if you've listened to it, some of you might be like, bitch, I don't listen to you. But, which is totally fine, to each their own. But that first record, every single one of those songs I was writing in there, Wilder Days, Take Me Away, all that. I sat in that house and I wrote because I had nothing else to do. And I remember at that time I was also still working at a gym, sometimes part-time. And I had to be there super early. And I had a fake email address that I pretended to be a booking agent. So I would scour my favorite bands, their websites, see where they were touring, what venues they were playing. And I would sit down and I would pull up this fake email, and I would send hundreds of emails trying to just book one show. And I would get 2 replies, and generally it was like a bounce back, like this email doesn't exist. It was a really fun time for me. And when I was on my lunch break one day, and I went outside, and I saw this car. And I was like, what the hell is this car? That is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so like I had to try to do some research. I was like, cool, Kris Jenner has it. So that's probably right in my budget right now to afford this. And found out it was a G-Wagon. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking have one of those one day. And so I would sit and I would send these emails, and then I would look at these cars, and then I would go on Realtor.com, and I would find these areas that I wanted to live in, and I would search the highest priced house, and I would look through every room in that, and I would sit there and I would be like, I want to fucking have this shit one day. I'm not gonna go back and live in this trailer. I'm not gonna have a car with no AC. I'm gonna have money to afford meat. I'm not gonna just eat ramen noodles. Like, I'm gonna have some fucking money one day. I'm gonna be able to do this. And that was around the same time that I got my first Gibson guitar, and I had to get it on layaway for 2 years. I paid $40 a month for that guitar, and that was, I remember just, it was fucking tough. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to, how am I gonna like stretch my money? I was barely making minimum wage. Fuck that job, by the way. I was like, I look back, I'm like, y'all were some fucking assholes. Not the tax place, it was the other place. If anyone ever goes to, never mind, no, Morgan, zip it. Erica, I told you to shake your head if I start saying shit I can't be saying, all right? I do have that issue. But, so I'm going through all of this, and then we transition into the period of time where I was discovered. I say discovered. I actually don't really fucking like that word. I worked for it. I happened to meet Sadler Vaden at a music festival. The only band I wanted to see that entire time that I was there was Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit. Like, that was the only band I really cared to see. And what's so funny is I almost didn't get to play this festival. They had someone drop out, and they needed a last-minute person to come in, and it happened to be me. And I think a lot about how that would have changed the trajectory of my entire career. I was playing backstage. It was, not the best set, whatever, and I had a guy come up to me, and he was like, hey, I really like this. I work for Jason Isbell. I think the guys would like to hear your music. I mean, I didn't expect to hear anything. 2 days later, I get a call from Sadler. A week after that, we sit down to do a FaceTime. I remember he was in El Paso, and I was at my mom's down in Virginia Beach, and he was like, you got any ideas? And I was like, here's this song, I'm calling it Reaching for the Wind, which we now know as Wilder Days. And I pitched that to him. He's like, I think this is really great. I ended up going to Nashville. We recorded a few songs in his makeshift studio in the back of his house, and we rode around in his Honda Element. And he loved that car, and we went and we got ice cream, and we blasted Wilder Days. And then that just kind of took me to like where I'm at now. I got a booking agent after that. I had a manager. I had a label. I had all these things. And now, I'm sitting here. I have the houses that I want. I have the car I want. I have all these things. And for the last probably the last 3 years of my life has been really fucking weird. I'm not even gonna lie to you like that. It's like one day you're like whatever, and the next day you're in these fucking tabloid magazines, which is, unless it's Weekly World News, I don't really give a shit. I don't want to fucking see it. But I remember just being at this place probably like a year ago, and I'm like super unhappy. I'm touring nonstop, which I love to do, but I'm like, I'm missing out on so much shit at home. It's really difficult when you're out touring and you come back home, and I'm kind of dealing with some of that, in the last few months of my life. Is it's like my friends, they work 9 to 5 jobs. The world did not stop just because I was gone for so long. And you come back and you're like, man, I don't have as many friends as I thought that I did, because their lives, they've continued to live and to work and to do the things that they have to do, and that's not on them. But I've realized I missed out on a lot of things. I didn't nourish myself the way I wish I would have nourished myself over the last couple years. And I just had one day in particular that I can't remember. I was at a store and I went in, and everything that could fucking go wrong that day was like going wrong. It was work shit, it was this, it was that. I'm annoyed at the crap people are saying about me on the internet, and I have no control over it. And I sat in my car and I didn't turn the car on. I just sat in it. And then I got extremely hot and, could probably have died in there. Someone did die in that parking. Actually, it was Walmart. I'm not even gonna lie. It was Walmart, and someone was dead there in that parking lot. It's a long story. They were in there for a while. That's for something else. Shut the fuck up. I was sitting in there, and then it just hit me. It was like, remember when you lived every day like this, but you were super fucking excited to go and try to build. And I woke up every day hungry when I didn't have comfort. I had fucking hunger. And I was like, that girl would be laughing at you right now, being like, bitch, this stress is a fucking privilege for you to have this right now. You have such privilege to have this stress right now. You have people who depend on you. You have the things that you've worked so hard for, but you just got fucking comfortable and a little bit lazy. I stopped, I just kind of delegated everything in my life to everybody else, and I stopped taking control of what I wanted to do, and I just said yes to everything. And that was my fault. It's no one else's fault. And I was like, I'm missing out on all these things that I wish that I could be doing. And I was like, so now if I'm acting like a little bitch, I just turn the AC off in my car. I do not turn the heat off in the winter though. I'm not about that. I will just whine. I will we're just sitting there thinking like you worked so hard to get to this place, and then now you're slacking off, and like you have absolutely nobody to blame at the end of the day. If your life is not how you want it to be, it's your fucking fault because you have not been working your ass off. I could not sit there and say I've been giving 110%. I went through a period of time where you wake up one day in the world, it feels like it's totally against you. And they're creating this narrative and this story about you, and you can't fucking do anything about it. And the more you try to fight it and go out there and make a comment and say this and say that, it just gets fucking twisted. And I was thrown into that, and I had no one to help me. No one knew how to, I had a label who not once called to check to see how I was doing. The only comment I got was, people would kill to have the publicity you're getting. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm gonna end up killing myself if someone doesn't fucking help me. And you sit there and I was like dealing with that, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I've wasted so much time going on family trips and sitting there scrolling on my phone to see what the fucking world has to say about me, and half of it's not true. And so I've just decided, there was like a turning point, and I was like, this next year, I'm not touring relentlessly. I'm gonna say yes to the things I wanna say yes to and no to a hell of a lot more. And I sat down at the beginning of the year, and I'm making a goals list of things I want to do, things I want to achieve. And then I look back at my other journals, the things I wrote down for the last 4 years, and I was like, wow. It's been the same thing for the last 4 years, and that really sucked to see. And it was simple things. I want to go fish with my cousin. I want to go on a family vacation. There's an Italian restaurant that the menu's different every day, and they just make it from scratch. I wanted to go there for 5 years, and I haven't made the time to do that, but I can't tell you half of the other things that I've done. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I put my phone down, and I just sat there for a little bit. I'm like, okay. And I picked my phone back up, and I texted my grandma, my mom, everybody. I was like, hey, do y'all want to go on a beach trip this summer? I was like, you guys want to go? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, cool. And I texted my manager. I was like, book the vacation. We're going for a week. I'm going down there. I don't want anything else. Another thing I wanted to do for 4 years is go to the Arnold. It was a little overstimulating for me. I am not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. A little bit of a panty attack on that. I'm glad we drove separate. Gonna throw that one on out there. But I got to go yesterday, and that's something I wanted to do for several years now, and it was always like I would say yes to something and then regret it. And then this past week I've had offers for stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I'm like, I have something else I'd rather do. And I've just really started to be like, if I say no to more things, I'm going to be able to say yes to a hell of a lot better things. And fortunately, I am in that position now where there's certain things I can say no to, whereas when I was 21, I had to go play for 4 hours while they paid me $50 and free booze. I had to do that. I don't know about the free booze part, but that was just what you get. But I've spent all this time we can sit here and we can say that life is short. And that's so easy for me to sit here and everyone be like, yeah, life's short. And then we walk out the door and we're just whatever. We don't do shit about it. And I woke up the other night and I got to thinking, I was like, there might be a day that I can't wake up and FaceTime my mom every morning when I'm having coffee. Eventually there will be a day that either she's gone or I'm gone or something like that. And it's like, we don't want to talk about those things because it's uncomfortable, but it's like, what am I doing? Am I wasting my time right now? And I want to just like really think about what I'm doing in each moment. And it's like, if I walked out of here today and I spent this entire weekend up here and I die on Monday, I've lived a really good weekend and I'm really happy with how I lived my weekend. I didn't just sit there. I've barely been on my phone looking at things unless I'm taking pictures of me and Chop with our new face mask routine that we've been doing. Anyways, that's a whole other story. I'm addicted to that shit now. But I'm like doing these things that are like incrementally making me happier. I hope that in 6 months from now, you see me and I'm like, I'm the happiest I've been. I'm the healthiest I've been. I'm writing the best songs I've ever written. And 6 months after that, I hope I'm saying the same thing because I don't want to be just continually sitting anymore. And I feel like I did that for so long. And that was kind of, you know, I've taken this break and I've written more songs in the last couple months, like some of the best shit I've ever written, and I can firmly say that. I'm taking my time with the next projects. I'm not rushing that. And I don't know, it's which is an interesting, it was difficult for me to take this break because I do have a lot of people now that depend on me. I have a lot of people who are, you know, they work for me and that's how they put food on their table. And so when I'm not working, they're not working. There's a lot of people. I've been dabbling in the acting side of things. I've been working on a lot of projects in that, and that's a totally different world. To give you guys like a little bit of business info on how the music stuff goes, the minute I book a show, 35% of what I'm making is gone. It's 10% to the booking agency, 15% to the management company, 5% to my business manager, and 5% to the law office. So 35% is gone. And then I've got a band to pay. So that's 4 or 5 people. I can't remember how many people's in my band off the top of my head. And if these fractions are a little off, just because I was not going to be a math teacher. So after that, you know, yeah, I've got crew, you've got merch, you've got all these people you have to pay for a bus. A bus is about $3,000 a day. Whether I'm using it or not, I'm paying $3,000 a day per bus. Just to sit there. I'm paying for Erica back here with this camera. She's very expensive. That's at least $12 million a year, right there off the top, you know? Totally worth it. But there's just like this big, and so it's like you're sitting here and you have all this and you're like doing this math, and again, it's a privilege, but you have to understand I came into this, I was booking my own shows, but I would go and I was doing my own merch, and at the end of a show, I was out there selling that shit. My process was awful. It was a balled up t-shirt. If anybody was ever, I don't think any of y'all were at those, but it was pretty bad. Someone commented one time, they're like, you should get an iron. I'm very big about ironing my clothes now. But I like look back at that, and again, it is a privilege for me to be able to say and do that now, but I just want to encourage each and every one of you to really just stop and ask yourself 3 things, and that is, 1, what is my AC moment? What is that moment that you can look back on that was like, hey, that's why I am where I'm at right now. I was super fucking hungry at that moment because I didn't have shit else. I had nothing, and I wanted more. So what is that moment? Because I think we get very complacent no matter what. If it's with fitness, if it's with your business, if it's with your personal life, friendships, whatever. It's like, what made me get to this point, and how do I go back to that mindset? 2 is, what can I do today? What can I start that I've been putting off? What can I leave here? If you want to go run a race, it's like, find that race 3 months from now and just go sign up for it tonight. If it's that trip you want to go, whatever it is, you can start incrementally doing that. You're not going to, you know, if you want to go hike some big mountain or some shit. I can't help you right now. I don't have any info on that. But you can start somewhere, and then, you know, what did I write down? Because I did write some things down. I didn't want to look at it too much here. I can't read what that says. No, but, and the third thing would be, is what I'm doing right now something that I would be happy dying while I'm doing it? If you're honestly doing something that you're like, if I died right after I finished that, I wouldn't be thrilled with that being my last moment on earth. And I've really been trying to ask myself that. And, you know, Chop put that little nugget in my ear last night when I took him and bought him, what is that, custard place here? That's pretty good. Yeah, he's been getting pup cups 2 nights in a row out here. But it's like, am I happy with what I'm doing right now? Is this meaningful? And I'm really going to try to like be implementing that. And one of my favorite quotes is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the best second time is to do it today. Anyways, thank you, Corey. Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all.